what is neuromarketing? Like, explain it to somebody that is a business owner and why they need to know what neuromarketing is.
Right. Well, I guess there are multiple definitions. I use a very inclusive definition, Jared, which is any use of our understanding of how our brains work to make marketing better. And I really kind of divide it from there into two subsets. One field has been called consumer neuroscience, and it's using neuroscience tools and also other tools, things like eye tracking and biometrics that aren't neuroscience, to measure how customers or potential customers respond to ads, to content, to packaging, to a retail environment where you have something that you want to evaluate, or better, even you have two or three versions of what you want to evaluate, and then you use these tools. Tools from a neuromarketing standpoint could include fMRI, which is something that is primarily used for medical purposes and research purposes. It's not used much in commercial neuromarketing, but it's kind of the gold standard for academic work, where you put a person in this narrow, noisy, gigantic tube that is usually used to provide very detailed imagery for medical purposes. It can be used to see how people are responding on a second-by-second basis, almost in real time, to stimuli, which could be content. It could be two versions of an advertisement. It could be a package. They've even done taste tests by putting a tube into somebody's mouth and giving them tastes of things. So that's more commonly, commercially, you see EEG used where the subject has a cap with electrodes on it. And these can range from very complicated with wet electrodes, which are about as appetizing as they sound. It means they put some goop in your hair to get really good contact, which provides high quality data, down to much simpler headsets with just a couple of electrodes that are very easy. They're not intrusive at all, but may not provide the depth or quality of data that the more complicated systems do. Anyway, that's one space, and that was how it started. The good news in that space, Jared, is that it has come down in accessibility and price. What used to be something that was only usable for big corporations looking at big problems, a new television campaign, a Super Bowl ad, a major package redesign, where they could afford to spend tens of thousands of dollars on studying the problem. Now, partly driven by the pandemic, but partly it had been evolving before. Now, some of these services are available on a service basis, a software basis, a SaaS model, where you sign up for a monthly subscription, pay $50, $100, $200 a month. And I'm talking American dollars, but these are not real fixed numbers. And you get to access these services that you can use to evaluate the same kinds of things. They are often not as high quality as a detailed lab study, but they are infinitely cheaper and infinitely more convenient. Imagine trying to recruit people like your customers, bring them into a laboratory, having them put goop in their hair so they can look at then your ads and see what their reaction was. That's going to be very difficult to get your customers to want to do that. You're probably going to have to use subjects that you hope are like your customers, where these new tools are much less intrusive. And we can get into some of the details on that in a bit if you want, but they are much more accessible and can be used by any size business, even small agencies, small businesses. And some are portable enough or unobtrusive enough that they can be used to measure things like training, events, how people are experiencing these things on a minute by minute or second by second basis. The other category of neuromarketing is what I call behavioral marketing. And that's not evaluating a specific ad or a specific image or message, but rather using the tools of behavioral science, of psychology, behavioral economics to come up with better ways to market. Generally, I would say come up with a hypothesis for a better way to market, rather than just saying, well, yes, the science says we should go with this headline rather than this other headline. I would say you would use the science to say, let's test this new headline against our old headline and see if it outperforms it. And those tools are also accessible to anybody who can read a book, listen to a podcast, watch a video on YouTube, and they're very powerful. And you see major corporations using these tools. Perhaps the best example I can think of, Jared, are travel sites where most major corporations now, the biggest corporations, actually have a behavioral science team for marketing, also for working on internal things, employee experience, and so on. They understand how powerful behavioral science is. But if you go to book an airplane reservation, you will see all kinds of behavioral science tricks at play there. There's only 2 rooms left at this price. These prices are good for today only. 25 people have booked this hotel in the last 24 hours. All of these things are using Robert Cialdini's principles of influence to try and spur customers to act right then before they click through to some other travel website and maybe look at some other options.